And there will be a book signing later on, and everyone who comes gets, there will be a book signing right away in the first floor. Yeah, follow, please, Mark, our friend Mark. Whoever wants to have a book, please follow him. And Hans Ulrich, you follow also. Good. Come, Armin. Armin Steuernagel. Who of you knows Armin already?
Probably not many.
Yes, some of you know him. Why do you have this strange dress?
You know, I will explain it.
Yeah.
May I greet you, hark, noble audience. My, a most esteemed and joyous greeting to thee all, with hearts full of gladness. I bid thee welcome to this illustrious assembly. May our conversation now be steeped in the essence of the merry spirits and amity. Okay, let's stop this. Aren't we here now, Steffi, to talk actually about innovation, about groundbreaking technologies and not about the past? I think we are, right?
Yeah, talking about steward ownership.
Talking about steward ownership, yes, that as well. But the interesting thing is, we are innovating on almost everything, but we are holding on to one thing. The legal dresses, not the dresses, of course, of humans, but the dresses of companies, of corporations. I'm Armin, as Steffi said. I started my first company when I was 16 and several others later, Mowgli, active around the world. And as an entrepreneur, I'm forced to use and wear legal dresses from 100 years ago, from the Victorian age. The Inc., the limited company, the GmbH from 1890. So while humanity in the last 150 years has been to the moon, invented self-driving cars, AI, we've just heard it, groundbreaking new things. The very basis of all these mind-blowing startups that we just heard, the very basis, the foundation, you could say the constitution, the operating system of these companies is from the 1800s. Now you could say, well, that's not really a problem, right? Old but very successful. What's the problem? And I used to think that as well. It's all about what the business does. It's not so much about how the operating system functions. But actually, the operating system answers the very important question: who controls the company, in which direction, how is value distributed? And the first time I realized this was when my father was leading a hospital, which was sold once, twice, several times, in the end to a stock market company. And nothing unusual, the shareholders, the highest bidder, could buy the control. It's really normal, of course. But what it meant for this hospital was dramatic. Because, people from 2,000 kilometers away in the headquarters were deciding on and ordering my father, okay, you're already profitable, right? But we could get something more out of it. Maybe you have to fire half of the staff. Indeed, he had to fire half of the doctors. They ordered him to just, use a certain 5 minutes for a first interview with patients. They ordered him to use only €4 for the entire catering of a patient per day. In short, the entire company was restructured, and employees really felt disempowered because I would call them, absentee owners from far away who wouldn't really care about the company, were steering it out of, certain numbers. And for me, absentee owners are owners who are I would say maybe not really owners, because owning means caring, means identifying. But absentee owners look on these numbers. And when this happened, with the hospital of my father, I was really angry. But then I realized, wait a minute, these guys, in this case in Paris, in the headquarters, they're just doing their job. And the hospital's operating system just allows legitimately people who put the most money on the table to get the control of the company. So in the end, it's not a problem. But what stuck to me was really the question, is that how I want my company to be designed? Is that the ownership design I want? Is that the right ownership design, for example, for AI? Absentee owners who are mainly looking, who are not caring. And I think that is why, at least I started to think about, okay, maybe we need to innovate a little bit on these corporate forms as well. Maybe we need to innovate. But in order to innovate, in order to get rid of these very old legal clothing, we first have to understand what is ownership exactly. So ownership is, in essence, a bundle of rights. It answers certain questions. First thing, the dividend rights. Who receives the profits? That's the first question ownership design answers. The second question it answers is who gets the voting rights. And the third, the bundle of rights, is the right to pass on, to destroy, and you can add more rights, but in essence, that's it. And now, how to actually assemble these rights and how to allocate them, who gets what, that's not God-given. That is often, and as entrepreneur, I have to say, it's often a very unconscious choice you make. You just use a GmbH and you end up with a certain allocation, but you never think about it. That's what happened to me. And here, often the forms that we inherited, the GmbH, was created in the industrial age when capital was scarce, and so capital givers were given a lot of rights. But in the end, that was not the design I wanted. I don't want to judge. I think these forms are very well suited for many companies. It's not a problem to use these existing old forms, of course. But I do understand people who think about this. And OpenAI is one company. Sam Altman, the founders of OpenAI, all of them, really thought about these questions as well. And the questions you really ask when you are rethinking ownership maybe is, what is enough? As an owner, what is enough for me? First question. And second, who actually should have the power? Sam Altman decided, and the other founders, OpenAI and this technology they were developing is so groundbreaking and has such an influence on lives of humanity that maybe the control in OpenAI shouldn't be allocated always to those who are the highest bidders, but maybe to those who feel a certain closeness to the purpose, a certain value alignment. So they created a new structure. But the OpenAIs of the last 100 years, Bosch and Zeiss, they did this already as well. So it's Zeiss also asked, he invented microscope and a lot of stuff. No iPhone can be used without Zeiss. And he asked himself, what is enough? Should I just get all the value because he was the sole owner in the end? Or is this somehow not the right thing here? And he decided against it. He said, I wanted stewards who are not holding the economic rights, steer Zeiss. And the same with Bosch, Robert Bosch. He had a different motivation. He had a son which was not really a fitting successor, but he had very able, value-aligned colleagues, managers, where he said, this is my daughter or son in spirit. This is my virtual family. I want to give them Bosch. But I don't want them to buy Bosch from me for absurd values. I want to give it to them independent of whether they have Bosch in their name or whether they have a lot of money in their pocket to buy it. They should just, like in an association or foundation, just become member and co-steward Bosch. So the structure Bosch set up was a so-called double structure, which you also see now with Patagonia and with many others, where he split the voting rights. You remember the bundle of rights? You split the voting and the economic rights. And the voting rights were put into the Robert Bosch Industrietreuhand, so it's a sort of a trust, you could say, with stewards who are chosen in there, and then a charitable foundation that has 100% of the dividend rights in the meantime. Looking around, I was really inspired by this. I wanted to do the same thing for me. I can tell you it's not easy. The legal structures, the legal forms we inherited are really not designed to do this. You have to find a lot of hacks. But there has been a silent evolution going on that rethought the cooperation. There are many companies, just you know, a small, a few logos, not many, that show that have rethought the cooperation. And what do all of them do? They institute legally two principles. One is the principle of self-determination or independence, self-governance. So they make sure the steering wheel of the company, the steering wheel always lies in hands of people who are really connected to the company, who are not absentee owners, but stewards. In different ways they do this. Some do this by election, some do this by selection, different ways. But the important thing is the steering wheel is not automatically passed on to the children, not automatically inherited. There can be children. Bosch, there's also always one from the Bosch family on board. It's not exclusive. You can run a normal family company like this, sure. But it's not automatic anymore. And a certain purpose orientation. What does it mean? They all have a certain kind of asset log. You know, Novo Nordisk and all of them, they all make sure that the stewards cannot access the economic value of the company, but the value is reinvested or donated. And actually, even the largest company of Europe, Novo Nordisk, is run like this. And the important thing is they're not just talking about this, because we have so many philosophies and values workshop in company, and we are good, we are this. They say, well, we're not just talking about it. We make it legally binding. We make it legally binding. We restructure the very DNA of the company, the operating system, to ensure these principles. Now, is that somehow important? Why should we maybe think about this also for today? Well, of course, there are many small and medium-sized companies in Germany that don't have successors and that look to open the pool of successors and find more for them. It's really interesting. And a lot, like, small window manufacturers are trying to do this, and that's why we're lobbying the German government to create a special legal form to make it much easier. But it's also, of course, very interesting for AI companies or other companies, platform companies. We call it steward ownership. And to just bring it down to maybe to one picture, steward ownership is giving a different answer to the question of how to allocate a company, to who does it get. And we have two principles, usually, how to allocate companies. One is money, the highest bidder. If you have 5 billion, you can buy quite a big part at the moment from the Deutsche Bank, and you will be the powerful woman of the Deutsche Bank. So this is the one thing. And the other good thing would be you win the lottery of sperms, or the lottery of eggs, maybe, and then you have a good name, and then you will be also maybe, governing a company. And these are principles that have, I don't want to say they're bad. They have been working quite well for a certain time, and they work well in certain contexts. But we shouldn't say this is the only way how corporates are run. We have to look for alternatives as well, and we have to be aware that it's a conscious choice whether this or this is my way how to allocate company. And steward ownership is a new way to allocate the power and money in companies. And yeah, Patagonia, you know that, has chosen this. You can also have blended forms of steward ownership. At Patagonia, the family still has a very strong influence, but has given away all of the economic rights. And they're, I think, not quite sure, how much. It's not quite transparent and open yet. How exactly then the power will be allocated. Now, the question I often get now is, can this actually work? When I studied at Columbia, they said, my professors at the law school said, Armin, this cannot work. You are decoupling what has to be together. This is the driver of capitalism. These companies, they will lose. Some, when this turmoil around Sam Altman was, some said, he dismissed corporate physics. This is, you have to have this driver. But I can ask you, what is getting up you in the morning? Is it to make more money? Is it maybe to have a really nice day? There is a driver, and psychology shows this. This is which is much stronger than money. And also the data which we have from, for example, Denmark, where more than 1,000 companies are instituted like this, very well-known companies, shows that these steward-owned companies, are as profitable as the normal ones, but they live much longer. Here you see the red line, normal-owned companies and foundation-owned or steward-owned companies. After 40 years, you have a 6-time higher survival probability. It's very logical, because the very driver of this company is long-term focused. The stewards don't have any profit from focusing on the short term anymore. Are all economic incentives away? No, for sure not. You still earn you earn your salary, you still are on the market, the normal market economy. So it's not a complete, it still can work. And the studies show employees stay longer there, the managers stay longer there. The ESG ratings of these steward-owned companies, that's what we have published, are significantly better. Because the driver of these companies is changed from short-termism to long-termism, and they automatically integrate much more other things. So the good thing is, in the meantime, the silent evolution is growing. We've started an organization that helps companies, these are the companies around the world, to do this. Since we started Purpose, that's the Purpose Foundation, a lot of companies joined this silent evolution of rethinking the corporation. And the only thing which, because the time, I think we need to catch up a bit the time, the only thing I want to add at the end is, one question which you have to tackle as well if you're rethinking the corporation is, of course, how can these companies be financed? Because you need startups, etc., to be financed in a good way. And I can just tell you, it is possible very well. We actually started even 2 investment funds on this. You can take a photo of this graph here. We show how a normal investment is, you invest, you get power for the money, you do an IPO or an exit, it's an uncapped thing. And how you do investment in steward-owned companies or capped companies, return-capped companies, it's how you invest also in OpenAI, actually. You have a risk-adequate capped return, it's capped. You don't have the majority of voting rights, you have the repayment from a structured exit. But actually, that is what the next speakers can talk about, because they are also investors and also in steward ownership. So I will leave that. I can just tell you, this is, I think, a form which can really help our economy to have more alternatives. The question is, of course, why don't we have more of this? Ryan Gallagher, the CEO of Patagonia, says this is not woke capitalism, it's the future of business. Maybe. The problem just is, at the moment, it's super hard to do this. You don't have information, you don't have the right legal forms, you don't have capital. That's what we are working on. New Yorker once said, Purpose Foundation offers a kind of corporate therapy. We rewrite the psychology of companies, changing the deep structures that shape their behavior. I think that's quite right. If you want to help us, you can sign, if you're German, on www.neuerechtsform.de. Our call to the government to say we need a new legal form. And if you want to learn how to invest in them, I think you can ask Albert and Susan. So, Hark, audience, thank you very much for your esteemed attention. And now I hand over to the learned, esteemed colleagues.